It's like one of those penny pushers machines at the arcade.
Yeah.
Eventually, it just all collapses.
Ask the Host, episode 4. I'm Joe.
I'm Alan.
I'm Félim.
And I'm Will.
Hello, chaps. People should know the deal by now, but if not, you can send any questions for us, show@askthehost.com, and they can be about anything you like, as long as it's not Linux and open source. And thank you to the patrons who are getting this 2 weeks before everyone else. If you go to askthehost.com/support, you'll find details of how to sign up and beat everyone else to the punch. So the first question, Hearn Sushi asks, if cars ceased to exist tomorrow, how would your lives change?
Do vans exist? Do buses exist?
Do they stop existing while I'm in one, travelling at 90 miles an hour?
I'm assuming this means if transportation that isn't either a bike or public transport ceased to exist.
I would become a bus driver.
Does Tesco/supermarket delivery still exist? Because going to the shops on a bike would be a fucking nightmare.
That is true.
Growing vegetables.
All the bikers, please send your emails to Félim.
Getting a weekly shop on a bike would be a nightmare.
Yes. Taking son to school would be a nightmare because it is not within walking distance. It's easily 45 minutes away.
If we're being serious, which we're not, and all the cars have disappeared, like legislation or alien invasion or whatever it might be, and they can't come back, then I think it would make a change to communities a little bit, because people would be less reliant on services and goods which are further away. And so you're more likely to use local shops for local people, and you're more likely to perhaps converse with people in your street rather than what we do now, which is talk to people online and, drive a long distance to get to work. I think it would make quite a difference, especially in large spread out places like America. It would kind of wind the clock back before the early 20th century, I think.
I don't know how America could cope with it, because I was even in Washington, D.C., just strolling about looking at the buildings, the obvious places like the Pentagon, the JFK Center, what's that thing that had the something gate scandal that we all call scandals with?
Watergate Gate.
Yeah, I went to Watergate. I stood outside, took pictures of, and the police literally rolled up to see what I was up to. I was like, Jesus Christ. But I walked across a bridge there that I was trying to get to the other side of the city, and literally a footpath stopped at the other side of the bridge. So I'd walked a good kilometre, and then the footpath ended, and it was like a free, motorway, freeway, they call it. It's just, you can't have no car there. It's not going to work.
The other benefit in that story is that the police wouldn't have rolled up. They'd have clip-clopped up on horses, wouldn't they?
That is true.
Well, yeah, I asked my wife this question, and she said, well, we'd just get a horse and cart, wouldn't we?
Fucking steptoe.
Well, the real answer is I would just leave the house an awful lot less.
Jesus, is that even possible?
Well, yeah, it's barely possible, but I would just lock the door and throw away the key, I think.
I think I'd try and introduce some kind of remote working that enabled me to not have to leave the house and work from home. I think that could work.
Yeah, it might just work.
If we still had things like the internet, then I think we could all get by. Like, my internet's not delivered by car, so that's good news. But, we probably get by. But like Alan said, I think there would be this kind of throwback to the 1950s or something, where a lot more stuff happened locally, and that would be quite a nice kind of environment to live in, and your kids could play in the street and all of those kind of nice things.
Will we go back to pre-decimalisation as well in your little fantasy land?
Brexit Island, it will be grand. Nobody will have a car. I think it'll be quite nice for a little while.
I'm going to set up a company providing iron lungs, because I think this might be a winner here.
I tell you what, polio crutches would go up in value.
I think my serious answer is I would invent, or at least attempt to invent, the internal combustion engine.
I think you're sidestepping the basis of that question. I'd invent the hoverboard. I mean, what the fuck?
You're telling me that I couldn't invent... No, I couldn't. I mean, I'd sort of know the vague principles of it, but I think I'd probably just make a very terrible bomb if I tried to make an engine.
I have made a fire.
Yeah.
If they were cars that cease to exist, could we go back to steam engines and all go around in things with rollers on the front of them and just roll around in big steam engines like you get at a steam fair where there's that lovely smell?
Look, I follow you on Twitter. I've seen your holidays on your steam engines and your canal boats.
Ooh. I like the idea of more canals. That sounds like a solution to this problem. Dig up all the tarmac roads and fill them in with water, and we'll just have canals everywhere.
All right, Dan asks, what intellectual property would you make into a TV show or movie from any other medium?
I was going to say Minecraft, but it turns out there's already a film planned.
What?
Which, as is typical with Hollywood, is off again, on again. It's been in production since like 2014, and it's currently due for release on my birthday in 2025. But the SAG-AFTRA strike has probably delayed that. They're supposed to start filming this week, but apparently not because of the strike. So that's what I would have said, but I'm not saying that because that's actually a thing. So I would say a Sinclair Spectrum game called Lords of Midnight that was an epic fantasy strategy role-playing game. And it had loads of characters in it, an epic story and a big powerful villain. And I think that could be turned into something like Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones or that kind of thing, like a TV show with an epic storyline.
Mine is computer game based as well, unsurprisingly. I think NetHack the movie would be worth making. But more seriously, I'd love to see something based on Elite. And there isn't really a story there, but that whole like epic space journey thing, I would like to see that in movie form. And a story based around that book, that story you got with it. I quite enjoyed that.
Oh, yeah, Commander Jameson. Oh, so good.
It's funny, I was chatting to Wimpy at lunchtime about the questions that you had come up, and he came up with Elite as well.
You'd swear you knew each other. It's funny, the two I was going to pick, one is one that I wish they'd reignite and keep going with, and the other one has already been done. The one that I'd like them to pick back up again was The Man in the High Castle. It was the Philip K. Dick book. It was such a good series that, I mean, I haven't watched the whole of it yet, but I know it's cancelled after season 3, which just galls me.
Spoilers. I've only seen the first episode.
I think if you have bloody produced a show, you should be made to follow it through right to the end. It's like, oh yeah, sorry teacher, I didn't do my essay. I stopped halfway through because funding ran out or something like that. I was like, no. But the other one was The Wheel of Time, which is a series of books by a guy called Robert Jordan, which I started reading back in school. And we always used to joke, oh, I hope nothing happens to him and he doesn't die halfway through writing it. And then he fucking died with 3 books left to go at the end, but they got another fella to finish it. But Amazon picked that up as well. So I just hope they don't make a balls of it. The first season was all right. It's changed, but it's all right.
Actually, you've reminded me of another one. There's a book that I've read called Split Second, and I absolutely love it. It's about these people who come up with the technology to travel in time, but they can only travel like a fraction of a second in time. But because the Earth is moving so fast, it means that when you travel in time, you actually travel like 50 feet in a particular direction. And so you're not actually traveling in time, you're traveling like in distance. It's like portal, like traveling. And it's these two factions that are trying to secure control over the ability to travel in time and duplicate things and stuff. It's really, really good. I love it. I've listened to it like 2 or 3 times on Audible, and I love it.
Well, my serious answer is nothing. I'd like something original for a change. And that might be a bit of a cop-out, but it seems like everything is just an adaptation of something else these days. And what about something just genuinely new and different for a change?
I think there is stuff that is new. I think perhaps you're not going to watch it because it's only in Picture House cinemas or straight to DVD. And because if it's not got a tie-in that they can market it, then it's not going to get the viewers and they're not going to get their money back on it with their special Hollywood accounting. So I think there is plenty of new stuff out there, but I think you're not seeking it out, maybe.
Well, there was that Apple thing, Severance, which I believe was a totally original idea, and that was fucking brilliant. And I think the strikes are delaying the second series of that, which is annoying. But more stuff like that, I think. All right, Prozac asks, what is your most expensive buyer remorse experience and what happened to it?
I hope it went off a cliff.
I've got two. One that was £100 and one that was $2,500.
Mine was more expensive than that.
Ooh.
Oh, well, you must tell us.
Right, it was a car. And we were in a hard spot. We, just moved back to Ireland, got rid of the old car. Wife bawled when it got taken away. It was our pride and joy. And we bought a Renault Megane. And I don't know if they went on strike during the construction of this car or whether something terrible happened to the car mid-lifetime of it, but it had a dodgy wiring loom in it somewhere, and it had a push-button start, which you'd put this, like a smart card key thing. I mean, it was really not smart. It used to sit in a slot, and you'd press the start button, and, about 66% of the time it would start. The other times it would just sit there and go, nah, I'm not doing anything. And then you'd be pissed off, you'd pull the card out, you'd get to open the car, and the car would start when you weren't expecting it. And you're just like, what the absolute fuck? What a piece of shit. And at the time, I'd always lived in a city where I didn't have to drive. So I was very late to get my driver's license. And this car, which I took to the test, it was a petrol car, so it was a nightmare because it was the most underpowered piece of junk you've ever seen. So you had to really give it a good load of welly. So it was a nightmare to drive for the test. But then one of the, I don't know what they called, tester, driver, validator fellow, whatever, came to sit in the car. He went to adjust the seat and the fucking plastic handle fell off the seat. So his seat was tilted back like, you see in gangster movies where they tilt their seat back so they can sit behind, what is it called? The A-frame or something like that. So if somebody tries to pop a cap in their ass while they're in the car, the metal will protect them. Well, that's what he was sitting like. And I was just like, fuck this fucking car. And he went, I'm sorry, I can't carry out the test today. And I was like, I'm gonna fucking tip this car into the river myself. Fucking raging I was. So yeah, anyway. Fuck Renaults.
So what happened to it? Did you actually put it in the river?
I didn't actually put it in the river, but some stupid bastard at the Ford garage who sold us our newest car, accepted it in the trade-in, and I sellotaped as much of that car back together to make sure it would pass the fucking test when he started and went, oh yeah, it runs, it's good. I was like, fucking sucker. Anyway, they've extracted enough out of us with our fucking maintenance of the car, so yeah.
I think mine would be an Oculus Quest, which I bought at the start of lockdown, thinking that I was going to be able to do some really immersive YouTube stuff with the kids, explore outer space, go under the ocean, walk around a virtual city, an actual place, but in virtual reality. And it turned out to just be a very expensive, not very well thought out toy. It was so expensive. I think it was, I can't remember now, £300 or £400, I think, that I didn't want the kids to play with it because I was worried they would break it, which kind of undermined it. And then, the whole tie-in with Facebook accounts and all of that stuff just ruled it out for me. So I wish I'd never bought the bloody thing. So it sat on a shelf for probably 2 years, not getting used. And then probably 3 or 4 months ago, one of my kids asked if they could have a go on it because they wanted to play this game called Gorilla Tag. And I said, you know what? Fine, go ahead. I don't care. And one of our kids has been playing Gorilla Tag for hours each day. It seems to be doing him a lot of good. He's getting some exercise. So it has turned into quite a useful thing, but only because I don't give a shit if it breaks anymore. I wish I'd never bought the bloody thing.
So mine would be my first brand new PC that I bought, which was made by a company called Dan. I previously had all the 8-bit computers, and I got a second-hand 8086 Epson PC and then moved on to a second-hand IBM PS2 Model 50Z, which was a 286. And then at some point I decided that wasn't powerful enough and I needed a new Pentium PC. So I bought this one from Dan. It was a P200, I think. And it wasn't actually that much faster than the 286 that I already had. And I bought it on credit, which was a big mistake. Ooh. So yeah, that cost me an awful lot of money. And I pretty much regretted it the second I turned it on, because I was like, well, this is not any faster. This is rubbish. As soon as I got it, and I kept it, and I still used it for years and years until I've still got photos of it when I still had it in 1998.
Are they in a frame on a wall somewhere in your house?
No, it's a photo of my desk with my cat on the desk, and it just so happens to have in the photo an IBM Model M keyboard, a Palm 3, a modem, a SCSI CD-ROM writer. It's got all the classic 1990s computer paraphernalia. And there's 2 desks on the shelf of this very common PC desk unit thing. And one of them is a P400, which is what replaced the P200. But the P200 was just, I was so annoyed when I first got it because it just was so slow. And yeah, I regret that.
That reminds me of my first computer. I went to the local computer shop and said, just build me a PC. And he just built me the worst Athlon piece of shit in a quite nice Nokia case that looked like the classic Nokia phones on the front. Yeah, I to this day, I've not seen another Nokia case. But that was such a piece of shit that the stock cooler was so bad that it would just overheat and just reboot or turn itself off. So I had to take the side off and get a desk fan and point it at the machine. But I don't regret it, mostly because he gave me a CD full of wares as well with it, including Photoshop 7, which works brilliantly in Wine. And
to this day.
I still actually use to this day.
I'm not shocked by that at all.
But I don't have buyer's remorse over that because that taught me a lot and it was cheap and whatever. And that was my first introduction. That was my first actual PC that was mine and not like a family PC or whatever. But I've got 2. So as I said, one is I spent £100 buying the bits to add electronic functionality to my drum kit because once upon a time I used to be in a band, right? And we had a record deal and everything. It was a shit small independent record deal and it was, we were never going to go anywhere. We were terrible. But I thought I'd add some electronic elements to my drumming. And so I spoke to this dude. I think I found it on eBay and then I got a phone number and spoke to him, told him what I wanted. And he said, oh yeah, I've got the thing for you. It's this brain and a couple of pads and whatever. I can do it for £100. And I said, so this is going to work with Reason that I've always used. Oh yeah, you plug it into the computer and blah, blah, blah. And then I got it and like you would hit the drum, bang, bang. There was that much latency. And I was like, what the fuck? I can't use this at all. And so he's, oh yeah, there's a driver from this person and this website like just didn't have the driver on it. And I emailed the dude and just in the end, I gave up and just threw the whole fucking lot in the bin. £100 literally in the bin. That was terrible. And another musical one, this one actually ends a lot better. In a fit of what I can only describe as madness, I spent $2,500 on a guitar.
I did wonder when we were going to get onto the topic of guitars.
Yeah, I mean, look, every now and again he sends me a picture and I just go, oh, fucking hell, here we go. And it's like this desperate attempt to like have me convince him that he's making the right decision. And it's like, yeah, whatever. The crack is good, just take it.
This was a Gibson ES339 in Blueberry Burst that I got from Thomann for, as I said, $2,500. I know you hate a semi, but I love semis, whatever.
They're awful.
Whatever. If you played one, you'd love it. But anyway, so I got this thing. I don't know why I thought it was a good idea to spend $2,500 on a guitar. That's by far the most I've ever spent. But I thought, right, you're worth it. And I think it was like a birthday or something. I can't remember. Anyway, so I get this thing and I'm like, yeah, I don't really like it. Like the neck's a bit whatever and the tops. And I was sort of regretting it over a few days. And then one day I was sort of playing it and I felt the neck and I was like, what the fuck is that? And there was a crack on the neck. I was like, what the fuck? And so I got in touch with Thomann and they said, send us some photos of the box. I said, it's fine. There's nothing wrong with the box. Then I actually found the box and there's big fucking dents in the box. So it obviously been thrown around in transit from Germany to the UK. And so I had to send them a shitload of photos and then they were like, yeah, all right, here's the details of when we're going to come pick it up, whatever. And it went back to Germany, sat in customs for about a month. And then eventually I got my $2,500 back. And all's well that ends well. And I was like, yeah, I'm never buying a brand new guitar again, quite frankly. That was just, I dodged a bullet there. And then the apocalypse happened. And I'm very grateful that I got my $2,500 back.